In this video we're going to talk about how to win a chess match when all you've got left is a rook and a king. And it is all about learning a pattern. I know that it's possible that the pattern I teach may not be the same pattern everybody teaches, but the pattern that I use is going to kind of stem off of a two-rook checkmate, where our rook right now on g3 has a wall built. And as I teach in a two-rook checkmate, our goal is to advance that wall. And as we advance that wall, we are trying to get the black king to have to move up the board, and eventually it gets to the edge of the board, it can't go anywhere, and it's checkmated because it can't play up any farther. And so currently my rook has a nice wall built in front of that king, and I'm just going to leave it there. And now for this checkmate I do need my king involved. My king really needs to help me out here. Now, what I want is I want my wall to be built right by the black king, and I want to set up my king in a position here. Okay, I want to set up my king in a position where if the black king moves, they would move and be perfectly aligned across the wall from my king. That's going to be a critical pattern to try to get to have happen in this checkmating pattern. I want the black king to line up with my king. That's what I want, and I'll show you why. Okay, if they do line up with my king, it's very important to note my king is defending the 3 squares right in front of the black king. Okay, this is called opposition. I have the opposition, or I should say I am opposing the other king, and I am guarding the 3 squares in front. And once that happens, I'm now allowed to check with my rook, because note what's going on. My king is defending the 3 escape squares in front. My rook is placing the king in check. And so the king only has one option, and that's to play up the board. And remember, the goal is for me to get that king to play up the board and eventually not have anywhere to go anymore. And so if this king is smart about their move, well, keep in mind they only have 3 options here. Those are the only 3 legal moves for the king. If they're smart about it and they're hoping I make a mistake, they should play to f5 because it's attacking my rook. And remember, my goal here, if you've seen the two-rook checkmate, my goal is to keep this wall built. I want that wall there to barricade the black king so that they cannot move down the board at all. Now, I have to realize my rook is under attack, and the trick when you're under attack with the rook is simply to run away as far as you can. Okay, so I'm going to have my rook run as far away as I can. Now, if the black king, I'm going to make a mistake for the black king right now. I'm going to play it to the right, even though it really shouldn't, because it should come back and play for my rook. Try to come back for my rook. Remember, my goal for my king is to put my king in a position where the black king will align with me across from the wall that's been built. And so my move would be to play king to f3, because if the king moves to the f5 square, I end up with the position I've been looking for all along, where I have opposition and I can check again. Well, let's just say my opponent knows they shouldn't line up with me and they play over to the right. Well, guess what? I should simply play to the right also, because then the king is going to have to, at some point, move over to align with my king. And if they don't, if they decide to play back, well, I simply would do something like advance my wall, because they played back. Okay, and they, if they're smart, will come over to try to attack my rook. Keeping in mind, my rook is doing its job. My rook just needs to keep that wall built right there. Now, if I play my king here to f4, I don't want to align the kings. I want my opponent to align the kings, so I'm going to play to g4. Now, if my opponent should know they shouldn't align the kings. Besides, their goal needs to be able to get all the way over here to attack my rook. So, actually, that's not really the right square. They need to actually get to the b6 square to attack my rook. So they should play over. Now, my goal is simply just going to follow them over, so that if they ever play to the right, that they will align the kings. So I'll continue to chase them, and I know this takes a few moves, but the second they attack my king, the key with these checkmating patterns is the second that your rook is under attack, run it away. Okay, just run that thing away. Now, if they're smart, they should play to the right simply for two reasons. Number one, they want to get back to attack my rook and hope I make a mistake. Number two, they're kind of hoping that I play here and align the kings, but I'm not going to. So, what I'm looking for now is simply to waste a move. And by wasting a move, what I mean is my rook has the wall built, and its job is to keep the wall. But I want my king to stay where it is. I want the black king to line up with me. So I'm simply going to move my rook just like one square over. And now the black king either has to align, which is bad, or avoid aligning, and then I can just chase them. Now, once I chase them over, they don't really have much of an option but to either play up the board, so I can advance my wall, or play over. And remember what happens when they play over. My king is guarding the escape squares for that king. That allows my rook to play check, which is, there's the check. My king is guarding these escape squares, and now the king has no option, the black king has no option but to play up the board. Once they play up the board, I can start to create the position where I want them to align again. And this is going to take a few moves. If they're smart, they'll come over to try to attack my rook, and this is just a lot of dancing around. But the second they attack my rook, remember, I'm going to run it away. They should try to get me to align it. I will waste a move, so that now they have to align or they have to run away. And as they run away, I will just simply copy it, because they will get to a position at some point where they either need to have to play back up the board, or they'll have to align the kings. Now, if they do play up the board, remember, don't play the check. Then you just let them out of your whole wall scenario. Don't play the check. Play the new wall. Keep that wall built right in front of the king. And now when they play, remember, the goal is to have them line up, so do not move to the g6 square. Actually, don't even move to the h6 square either, because then their king can come over and attack your rook. Play to the f6 square. Now the game is just about over. They either align, by the way, if they align, they're going to lose because this is checkmate, or they realize that they're going to have to play the other direction, but I am basically going to force them to align, because when I play here now, they only have one legal move, and it leads to checkmate. As they play over, this is now checkmate. And make sure you know why that's checkmate. The same reason in all of these cases where the king is guarding the escape squares, and now I have a check, and there's no other squares for that king to move back to. So this is a checkmate, and this game is over. So the pattern is sitting on the screen. You want your rook to keep a wall. You want your opponent's king to line up with yours, then play the check. You've got to kind of get used to the pattern of how to move your king, when to move your king, and when to have your rook escape, when your rook should waste a move, and things like that. So set up a board and put a rook and a king down, two kings, and practice this. Practice it and practice it so that you can win flawlessly with those situations.